I have 5 deployments, 3 of which are combat, 1 Iraq and 2 Afghanistan. And right now I was going to plan on talking about all of them, but I thought it was just me. So we'll see how far I get. So I'm just going to be talking about the first one. And this is what I flew. It's called the CH-53 Echo Super Sea Stallion. Right now they have, the Kilo is coming in. Most active duty units have it already, which is kind of cool. You can do a lot more stuff and haul a lot more stuff. This was the initial push into Afghanistan. I don't know how many were here last week. This started in November of 2001 and went to February 2002. And I'm talking mostly everything's going to be Marine Corps sided. So this was Task Force 58 for the Marine Corps. And this is where we went into Camp Rhino. We set up Camp Rhino in the south, and we did our initial operations in Afghanistan. And I had a lot of friends. One of my sister squadrons was over there. But I was over there in February of 2009 to March of 2010. So that was my whole mobilization. I went with my squadron, so this was a completely different deployment compared to my second one in Afghanistan where I went by myself. And we were mobilized for 13 months, that's the time frame on there, but we only spent 7 months in Afghanistan. 30 days were spent in Kandahar, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Then we went on to Camp Bastion, which was the British base at the time. And then, of course, true fashion, Marines took over, and we changed the name to Camp Leatherneck. So, since this was a push, our main job was build up and then resupply with everybody was there. In February 2009, President Obama authorized 17,000 more troops in Afghanistan to stabilize it. So another reason we were in Kandahar for so long when we got there was because there was no place for us to live over there. When we got there was LSA-1, living support, I forget what it stands for now, but there were little villages. And then by the time I left, I think it was they were up to LSA-9 by the time we left. So that many more chow halls, that many more showers, bathrooms, tents, etc. This was just, we were a reserve unit, so the most wonderful thing about being a reservist, and most active duty people don't see it, to include myself when I was on active duty, is reservists have a real job when they're back home. So we had HVAC people, we had plumbers, we had electricians, we had carpenters, you name it. So we actually had to build our facilities up down at the flight line. We were a little over a mile away from where we slept. So one of the Marines created this, built it all out there, and then we decorated it with sandbags as appropriate. So when we were there the first time, we were under the guidance of the International Security Force Systems. ISAF went from 2001 to December of 2014. And the primary objective was to enable the Afghan government to provide effective security across the country and to develop the new Afghan security forces so they could battle the Taliban. That was the mission then, when I was over there in 2009. And my son just graduated from the basic school in Quantico, Virginia, so appropriately we headed over to the Marine Corps Museum, and I took snapshots of the GWAT Global War on Terror exhibit. So this was what it looked like from 2001 to 2019. It was the bigger bases are on this, not all of them. So that's a broad view picture. And this is just closer up. Those were the biggest bases for Marines, where Marines were heavily present in the southern part of the country. And then this shows all the FOBs and the COPs. Now, it's not that easy to read because I had to blow it up after I took the picture, but I was stationed at, right here's Leatherneck, right here. So we flew over and had Marines in those 3 provinces in the southern part of Afghanistan.
Sarah, for the benefit of some of the people in the audience, what's a FOB?
A forward operating base. And then a COP is a combat outpost base. So basically the difference between the two, a FOB, you can usually find fuel. Like if we only could carry enough fuel with our load to get to the FOB, they would have some fuel for us. A COP would not have any fuel. So you had to make sure you had enough fuel to get there and get back. And typically at COPs, they were living on camping showers, showers that you hang up and the sun heats it up, and MREs. So there was definitely more life support systems on a FOB than there was a COP. So our unit was based out of Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, and this is how we got our aircraft there. We broke them down, we took the main rotor head off. You can see these are 3 of the tail rotor blades. The main rotor blades are too big to fit in it. The main rotor blades would we laid down here on the side of the aircraft. So we took the main transmission out, that went on a huge pallet, took the blades off, and we folded it up. And so we could get 2 in a C5 or C-17. And that's how we got over there. So in Kandahar, unfortunately, it took us a long time to get our planes. We had to build them. So we took them apart, now we got to rebuild them. So that's why we were in Kandahar so long. One, to build up a LSA-1 for us, the CVs. Did a lot of it, love my CVs. And then we were waiting on our aircraft to get there and our pack up so we could rebuild our aircraft so we could fly there. And we did everything. Basically, I'm talking about the stuff we did over there. We were combat assault transport. We carried everything. And when I mean we carried everything, you name it. Soccer balls, bloomin' onions, grills, charcoal, ballots, generators, water, MRE, mail. We hauled it. I never even knew. We always had these crates in the middle. And they were always full of something, gear that they needed or stuff we were moving from one place to another. We carried everything. We also trained the Afghan National Army how to get on. We weren't flying here, we were just, a lot of them aren't aware of their muzzle. So, you just start with the basics. Your muzzle needs to be down. This is how you board. This is how you get off the helicopters. So we did a lot of training on, off. And this is, a typical load. You can see the packages in the middle. The local Afghans, they were probably government officials or VIP being transported. We had, dogs on there, moving them. They were IED, sniffing dogs. And Marines just going from one place to another that had meetings. We would spend 5 hours in the aircraft going from point A to point B, point C, back to A, to B, to D. That's what we did for the majority of our 7 months over there. Outside of the 30 days, we were waiting for our aircraft to get built. And then this is, we did RIPs towards our end. A RIP is a relief in place. So what it is you gradually bring out, like a squad, you gradually replace the whole unit. So you bring out a squad, you put in a squad. You take out a squad, you put in a squad. So it was, so the security and the integrity does not degrade. So we had a lot of RIPs. And you can see how full they are inside. And this is just taking troops out to another FOB. What the land looked like. We did a lot of flying around the Helmand River. So the fish hook. I don't know if you ever can remember hearing about the fish hook. Majority of our flying was north and west of the fish hook. So there was a little bit of green every now and then. These are the ballots. It was election year. And this is what they put their official presidential ballots in. And we went from location to location. Interesting locations because there were, find a random town out there and someone would be in charge of gathering and giving us these ballots. They were literally Rubbermaid containers. They had to do a thumbprint. It was kind of interesting once because we landed at Lashkargah and we have a pretty big rotor wash. We, all the old days they put bombs on the side of their helicopter, their plane when they, had to hit their target. Well, we sometimes put porta-johns on the side. Porta-johns we can tip over. So they were thinking, and they had all those Rubbermaid containers on the ground, and they just went flying. Saw these poor Marines running, trying to lay on top of them. But that was their presidential election. That's how it was done. It amazed us all. And so when we went to these FOBs and these cops, we never shut down. That's the last thing you want to do as a helicopter or an aircraft. You do not want to shut down. The chances of you breaking are just way too high. So our rotors, in this picture on the left, our rotors are turning. You can't really tell. A little bit up here, you can tell it's moving, but these are going full speed. And those Marines they trust us. We got to keep our hand on the stick at all times, in case it dips down, because if it dips down, it could dip down to about this high. Chop off the upper half of someone. So there was always danger, no matter what we did, whether it was a simple mission like this, daytime or nighttime. Always had to be aware. This was our bread and butter, external ops. We tried to move everything external because when you were getting shot at, it was easier to drop the load and then pick up speed and leave. So we always preferred external because it was a quicker avenue to escape. And it was the only way to carry generators, bridges, Humvees. I hated carrying water and MREs. Those things just went like this. They swung back and forth. So you always have two Marines underneath your helicopter. One grabs it with a hook, and then the other one loads it. You grab it with the hook to release all the static that it's built up, and then the other Marine holds it. So we're about 10 to 12 feet above them, or above the object they're standing on. So only about 5 feet above their head. And the HST is what we call them, helicopter support. I forget what the T stands for. They were great guys, and they took a bunch of awesome pictures for us a couple times and gave them to us on TV. So one of these is me. I don't remember which one. The heaviest load we ever took was a 13,000-pound computer-loaded Humvee out to Delaware. We had to go minimum fuel. It was like 105 degrees, whatever it was that day, 110. And as soon as we got there, we landed and we had to fuel up just to get back the 30-minute flight back to Camp Leatherneck. Just different perspectives. And then we have something called the Hellhole. We did most things single point. We do have the option for dual point, but single point is faster and it's easier to release the load with single point than it is double point to dual point. And so this door, that's actually about this big, opens up and the crew chiefs literally lay down on this. And they say the load is tension on the hook, the load's off the ground, and then they let you know how the load is going. So they're literally, my crew chief is taking this picture right now. And they let us know. So the picture on the right, that's obviously MREs and water. You can see the MRE boxes on the side and the water's in the middle. And then they'll let you know if it starts swinging, but you can tell when the generator starts swinging, because your butt, you can feel it in your butt. Like, oh, gotta slow down. It's just an awesome picture of my helicopter. Okay, this is a fun story. So, a Women Marines Association from the other side of the state sent me, this is just some of the packages. Well, you know, we actually did have a chow hall that we could eat at maybe once a day. So we kind of felt guilty we didn't eat all these goodies. So we decided that we were going to open all the packages, take out, you know, maybe a couple things for us, take out stuff they don't need, like feminine hygiene stuff, and repackage them up. And we became pitch black, and, well, pitch black was our call sign. We became the mailman. And then all of our Marines started to open their packages, and what they didn't need would put in this location, and we would rebox them. And so that's one of my Marines gathering. And then we started, Marines don't steal, we never steal, we just tactfully acquire.
Requisition.
Yes, and so you can see down here on the bottom, our Marines were able to get, you know, cases of Pop, Ribbit, Otis Spunkmeyer muffins. Maybe someone might have got caught once, but the Marines loved us out in the field. We would just, they could not wait for pitch black to come in, because we would come out with goodies galore. And they love, even though Ribbit is not good for you, you know, cigarettes weren't good for you, and, you know, everybody smoked them in World War II, so yeah, we became the mailmen. Everybody loved us. And it was fun. The Marines got into it. It was, you know, the younger Marines had decided, well, let's go to the chow hall and get those muffins and cans of pop. And then this is just life. This is another pilot, Bray. She's one of my best friends. This is what our living spaces look like. You know, they're pretty nice, actually. The one crazy thing is the light was only on once. This was the only time the light was ever on in this tent, because you had people working 24 hours a day, so there was always someone eating or sleeping or working. So it was funny because we had these, you can't really tell, but there's a foot locker right here at the end of the bed. Everybody had foot lockers. So you come out, you know, it's no clouds, bright sun, you step in this pitch dark tent. You gotta stand there for a minute, let your eyes adjust a little bit, and then you're just feeling your way back. Everybody had marks on their shins where they were hitting the foot lockers. But so this was the one time we turned on the lights because no one was sleeping. We were happy, so we were obviously getting ready to leave. Actually, those are, the one in front was our flight surgeon, so she's Navy, and the one in back was another Marine from Hawaii. She's with the Delta Squad. Chow is continuous, and we had lots, like I said, lots of care packages. We were never shy for, I mean, people were sending us cases of Yahoo, or Yoo-hoo, whatever that chocolate drink is.
You,
And so we may have acquired deep freeze somehow, and we would put the Yoo-hoo in there and cool, and then the other thing we try and freeze is your bottles sometimes came in a liter water bottles. So if you froze one of them, the water would still be a little chilly by the end of your flight. If you had a completely frozen bottle of water, that's how you just sweated bullets. You drank the whole liter, and it's a little chilly at the end of a 5-hour flight. But what they, since we were a mile away from all the LSAs, they had bus services, but it was unrealistic. I mean, they were the buses with no windows, and, you know, just kind of sat there letting all the sand come in and whirl around you. It's like, we opted to stay. They made food. We're pretty certain this was probably supper. They probably made this food at 10 o'clock in the morning, let it sit in the vet cans, and it was always a joke that we had. It was, okay, chow's being delivered. Let's go guess what we're eating. And I know there were several times that we never guessed right. We just could not figure it out. It didn't taste like what we thought it was, so we made a game out of it. But we did get ice cream every now and then. That was amazing. This is our barber shop. That was maintenance admin. There were no barbers, so do what you gotta do. And this was a flight line in a typical sandstorm or funnel cloud. So you can see we were down on the end, and you can see where these were all the squadrons right here. We were 53 Echo Squadron and a 53 Delta Squadron. So the Deltas look like my aircraft, but they only have 2 engines, ICE 3. And then we had a squadron of Cobras and Beauties. And the Marines built that with AM2 matting. So that was being built also while we were waiting at Kandahar. So that entire runway was laid down with, big sheets of metal. These are our workspaces, so they were pretty nice. You can't complain. We designed them, and they gave us plywood, and we just cut it up. Once again, reservists. We had carpenters that could do some pretty good work. They made us desks. They made us little boardwalks out there, which was nice. The howitzer. This was one of my pride and joy missions. I was the first one not to dump it. You can see how the nozzle right here naturally wants to go right into the dirt. And I successfully picked one up, moved it, and the muzzle, no sand in the muzzle. So, we were moving these around as needed for the Marines. Now, there was another base south of us called Dwyer. It was a tiny base when we first got there. We flew in and out. There were just 2 places for helicopters to land. So just 2 helicopter spots made of AM2 matting once again. And they had fuel there. And then this was built up, and this is how they got a lot of the gear in. C-130s actually came in and just dropped air delivery of all the gear they needed. And then eventually, Dwyer got a long runway that C-130s could land in. And this was mostly Marines also. These are the Cobras and Hueys. We needed those to go into Marja and Lashkar Gah. So they would escort us in. They would go in first. Now this is a typical fob. So you can see how it's got a little bit more than a cop. Well, a cop is a lot smaller. I've seen cops half this size. So they actually have roads. You can see the vehicles sitting out here, over here. And this actually has to be, we just call it castle. There's we never pronounced it right. We just said castle. The Taliban had taken over this years ago, and then the Marines came in and we took it back, and we gave it back to the Afghan. And this was us bringing the Afghans out there for the governor of the Helmand province for the first time ever, first time for him to look at and see his house. And this would be a cop. You can see there, we can't even land in it. It's so tiny. Our helicopter's 100 feet long, to give you an idea. And out here, what they did is they put river rock down so we could land and it wouldn't be as dusty. And we could get some sort of reference. You can see the dust we're kicking up just going over that road right there. And obviously, only one helicopter can land at a time, so obviously I'm out flying, and my crew chief, I handed my phone, my camera. I actually took a camera on this deployment. Tell you how long ago it was. And he was taking pictures for me a lot. I did lose one camera out the heliport. He dropped it.
They popped smoke there to give you the indication for your landing and.
For a couple reasons. We were clear to land, it was safe. You know, no one was firing on them, it was secure. And yeah, for reference to follow it in. So we would just dash two. We never went anywhere as a single ship, as one helicopter. There was always two of us. So that means dash two was up, flying around, and dash two had a tail gun on them. So looking out, making sure everything's good to go. You know, making sure nothing's coming up that road fast. Camels and goats were the main livestock. They were treasured livestock, especially camels. These are all, we had intel on our aircraft, some intel Marines, and these were closer down to the Helmand River, and these were all Taliban-owned camels. Now, if we killed a camel, we had to pay a lot of money. I think it was $800, $500, right? It was a lot of money, it was several $100 that we would give the farmer when a camel died. And, you know, I don't know how familiar with, you usually have a stash of cash to go out and give people in time of this. So if I can get to my second deployment, that was a very interesting one too. So we love to go down and just check out the camels. I love the white ones. Just a local farmhouse. What blew my mind about this is there was nothing around. Nothing. No Walmart, no gas station, no McDonald's, no other house. We're talking 5 miles, literally. Just a farmhouse out there. Granted, they usually house like several families, like generations of families. The son gets married, he lives there, and the daughter gets married. I can imagine living like this. This was up by Delaram, when it was closer to the one base we were landing on with the red smoke. West of that cop was the city, so this was kind of considered a city. And the orange right here, that is actually corn. We were trying to get them to grow more corn. Now this is Lashkar. This is, when we first got there and we were landing in here, we landed, it was completely within this wall. We never went outside this wall. We always needed escorts in this it was in the middle of the city of Lashkar, and there's always someone that wanted to shoot us down. And it was always fun when we were out flying around to see one of our convoys. We always fly really low over top of them. I always got excited. This is a mine roller with an adjustable roller in front to try and trick the IEDs. This is, you know, fun time. There was a lot of us had September birthdays, so we made the most of it. The British side of the base still had good stuff. You can see we had orange pop, we had Coke, and pizza. So that, obviously it was in September. We got there in, it was like, by the time we actually got to Bastion was the end of May. So that's how much it's built up between May and September. And we hung out there because we had better food than our chow hall. And it's just another night. We were hanging out with the air traffic controllers and the fuelers, the British fuelers.